Hello and good evening, wherever you are. Of course, it would be probably good evening in the UK, good evening in Uganda, or good night. And it might be good morning, good afternoon in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. So, welcome to the Revolutionary Spa. And that is about self purposeful action. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. And this is UNN Live TV. Of course, there's been so many developments in our reality as UNN members. There's been so many changes in the wider and, in the macro and in the micro sort of sense of the word reality. But I welcome you all. I thank you all for being on here. And I greet you all in the name of the Almighty that we've been able to be present today. As always, I am your host, Sophia Sebi, and I am on the Revolutionary Spa. I am all about mindset. I'm all about self-purposeful action. That is what Revolutionary Spa means. This show, remember, is not for everybody. I get it. It's not for everybody. It's not for anyone looking for sensationalism. It's not for everybody looking for a quick fix. This is about our mindset to change the way we think from within, not from outside. So our show today obviously is all about self-image. I thought about this topic about self-image because I know that most of us struggle and find challenging the way we see ourselves in the world around us. We sometimes become colluded. We sometimes become very we become sort of in the dreamland. We have unrealistic expectations of ourselves and find ourselves stuck in the middle of all the wrangles, all the wars, all the things that are happening around us. We make those things become us. We take on all those energies that become us, our reality. And I am coming here today to tell you that if you look at the things around you, it is important that you have a sieve. A sieve, when I say sieve, like a kasenge ja, in Luganda we call it kasenge ja. You need to kusenge ja. What is it that you're bringing to your life? What is it that you're taking on in your own life that impacts, that changes your perception? Endowooza yo efaananeta, endowooza yo is about you taking on the things going on around you. You make it your reality. And in fact, it is far from it. Our reality is based on the belief systems that we have taken on day in, day out. We've taken on from childhood, we've taken on as we become young adults and maybe elderly. We even go to our graves sometimes with the thinking that we are what we think we are, with that unrealistic image of us. So I greet you, I welcome you to UNN Live TV. We are on all platforms. I hope that you can catch us on our website, which is getunn.com. I know it is under construction, or it has been under construction. So wherever you're from, wherever you're listening from, wherever you're watching from, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other platforms, welcome. I welcome you all. And thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for being those, one of those who are privileged to get our message, privileged to be part of the revolution, the real revolution, privileged to be in this lecture today. Like you've said many times, this has been a mind-boggling way of life that you have taken on because you are trying to revolutionize your own life. You are trying to do that. Mind, body, and spirit. It is not about blaming. We are no longer in lamentation. We are about acts, no longer in the books of lamentation and in the books of acts. I know there has been so many things that have happened to you, to us, to the wider revolutionary UNN TV, but do not lament. It is important, very important, that you understand that it is not about outside things happening. It's about your mindset. How do you move forward? How do you end a relationship and begin a new relationship? What things do you go through? Change is inevitable. We cannot stop change from happening. That is the constant. Change is real. And as part of that change, how do you incorporate that in your real life? It is not about coming here and getting all the knowledge. Knowledge is not power, but the application of knowledge is power. As most of you would know, I do these lectures in English, in the English language. So I hope that you understand a thing or two. This is a monologue. It's not a conversation which goes back and forth. Unfortunately, I do not have that space at the moment to be able to listen to your views, to your, contributions. And I know you are so brilliant in bringing about your contributions. I listen to all the shows every day on UNN TV, and I love that discussion. I love the most part for me, the best part of all the UNN TV live shows is the calls, the comments. So I appreciate you all for being on here on UNN TV, and I see all the comments. And maybe I'll do a bit of shout out. But first, let's go to prayer and gratitude. I just want to praise God Almighty for enabling us to be present and continue to grant us with good health, mind, body, and spirit. We pray for the love, courage, hope, and wisdom of those gone before us, present and yet to come, right? For those lost loved ones, especially those lives lost due to murder, torture, and any causation of their death by greedy leaders. Sometimes you can have a loss of life, not necessarily through death, but the loss of life by absence. You can have a loss of something, like loss of a job, loss of a relationship. And they are all losses because we have to grieve. There's a process. When you lose something you love, you lose someone you love, you go through a grieving process. The grieving process is not at all about just losing someone. It is about losing something. You can lose your job and it's still a loss. You can lose for instance, someone that you so loved who, for instance, on specifically for UNN TV, having an abrupt sort of announcement about the loss of, Prince Chimbugwe not being on lives every day. And I know so many of you had so many of you comments and lamenting and crying and all of those things. This is a loss. So it is up to you to choose how you're going to grieve and then move on. We need to move on. We cannot continue to lament. We cannot continue to be always in negativity. Remember, all this time we have been coming on here teaching that come away from putting all your eggs in one basket. When you put all your eggs in one basket, you are devastated about loss. when you put all your eggs in an individual, not an ideology, not a thinking, a way of life, a perspective, you feel that there's no way forward. But I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. The case is that you take yourself purposeful, be intentional, be purposeful, be um the boss, be the CEO of yourself. Don't let things, people, individuals be your boss. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I hope you do. Because if you let someone, something take ownership of you, you are giving your power. You are giving your power to that thing. That thing takes over. So, anyway, we're still in prayer. Those hospitalized or suffering from traumatic injuries, psychological and physical, especially sustained from torture. And I remember here our comrade or our, teacher, Jakana Naduli, I do pray for you. Wherever you may be, I hope that I know you're strong. You have a strong mental. I don't know how to call it, but you do have this strength about you that you will come through whatever the challenge is. And with our positivity, with our collective positivity, the energy will definitely push those things, those negative things that are holding you hostage. And when I talk about holding hostage, it's not necessarily physical hostage, but we do have a lot, all of us suffer from a lot of negative hostage. Not necessarily negative hostage. I'm talking about negative mindset, the hostage of our mindset. We're imprisoned because of our mindset. Because the physical hostage is a small part of what we are dealing with. But most of us are dealing with a lot of mental hostage. And this is the worst of them all. So those who are especially sustained, who are experiencing torture, inhumane treatment, rape, domestic violence, and civil wars, those wrongfully imprisoned, may they have a miracle that an angel visits to give them comfort, hope, and relief that their plight will soon be over. I am grateful. Remember, gratitude, prayer, and gratitude are very key to your success. No matter how you want to look at it, prayer and gratitude are the most important in your life, in a collective. It does not, I don't mean prayers in whatever you decide is prayer. Prayer is not necessarily about you have to go to church every Sunday. You have to go to mosque every Sunday. And maybe that's why our prayers are not necessarily answered, because we think it's a chore. We take it as a chore. Prayer should be a day, a normal, a you know, a thing that happens all the time in your conversations, in your thoughts. Your thought process needs to have that prayer. Prayer does not mean an act of going to have wudu, just like the Muslims would put it, wudu, to go and say, I've washed myself and I'm going on a prayer mat, or I am putting on my best to go to church. Prayer is not about that. I am coming from a philosophical thought that believes prayer is an everyday, wherever you are, you're sitting, you're at your job, you're doing your best to feed your family, wherever you are, you should be in constant prayer. So I leave that prayer to you, but remember that prayer is not just an act of doing something. It is about a continuous thing that you do in your thoughts, about what you ask for, about what you're grateful for, what you're you're thankful for, your life. So I thank also in terms of gratitude, the UNN team back and front of house, especially the producers and social media warriors, all those who are having great discussions and analysis of the Uganda issues. Thank you. Thankfully, we thank a lot Prince Paul Chimbugwe, Madame Liz, Mr. Remedios Chintu, Mr. Gucci. Now, thank you so much, Mr. Henry Gombe, for all the contributions that we have had. I mean, we are still having. Imagine how many times do you go, tell me, every time that you go to pay for a course, for instance, you go to classroom education, do you learn the things that you've learned on here at UNN Live TV? Do you? I don't think so. There's so many things that we have learned and we're learning, we continue to learn, that are impacting on our lives, transforming, changing, reinventing, rebranding. And remember, revolution is not about the same, being of the same. It's about complete transformation, like a butterfly from a caterpillar to this beautiful thing. That is what it's all about, the revolution. So I encourage you, all of you, to please look within. Look within. Change is not from outside, it's from within. When we have understood that concept, we will indeed be able to transform, revolutionize our lives. When you revolutionize yourself, your situation, how do you think, why would you say you want to revolutionize Uganda or the circumstances around you when you cannot change yourself? You cannot do the same things over and over again and think that you will indeed revolutionize Uganda. You can be a leader of tomorrow. It is not possible. Change starts with you within, not from outside. So let's remember that. Every single time that you do something, it needs to be purposeful. It needs to be intentional. How are you eating? Just one last sort of thought in terms of gratitude and prayer. How do you eat? How do you go on about your business every day? Do you take the same route? Do you pray exactly the same way? Do you take the same bus? It starts from those little things. The things that you think are insignificant, they are the most significant in terms of how do we treat our own families, our own children, our own friends. Which friend do you move around with? What things are you listening to? This is the revolution. What is your perspective on money? What is your perspective on being an employee? Wouldn't you want to be your own boss? What is your thinking about being a consumer all the time instead of being a producer, a creator? So as we stop here, let's go into our national anthem. Thank you very much for all of you being on here. Before we go into the national anthem, I just wanted to say shout out to a few people, all of you who are on here. Rehema Gisa, thank you. Aison Mary Evanessa, thank you. Chivumbi Alex, thank you for being on here. Chebakuba Yoweri, good evening. How are you? Nia Pepe, my darling, how have you been? Olivia Olive, how are you? UTRO, thank you. Katotom, thank you. Nakabugo Irina, or Irene, so sorry, I beg your pardon. Thank you. Gonza, welcome. Malcolm Katz, welcome. Busi Deco, welcome. Joseph Collins, welcome. Nawulia Nowerina, welcome. Nansuga Florence, welcome. Nabulia Harriet, welcome. Thank you. And I know probably Mara is on YouTube. Welcome, and all the team on YouTube, welcome. I appreciate you all. Tebogererwa Lukia, thank you for being on here. Esther Mukwano Guamukama, thank you. May God bless you. I appreciate you all. I love you all for being on UNN TV. And thank you. May God bless you. May you have good health, good wealth, good thoughts. Mental health is obviously the most important. Our mindset, if our mindset is right with us, we will be right within and we'll make the right choices. We'll be intentional, we'll be purposeful, and we will build on the actions in a more purposeful way. So thank you. Let's have our national anthem and welcome you all on UNN TV. This is the Revolutionary Spa. Thank you.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free, for liberty, together we'll always stand. Oh, Uganda, the land of freedom, our love and labor we give. With neighbors all at our country's calling, peace and friendship will be.
Welcome back. Welcome back to you all. This is UNN TV Live, and we are on the Revolutionary Spa, and I am your host, Sophia Sebi. And Revolutionary Spa means self-purposeful action. It's all about the self, being purposeful, and taking action. So, as I go into our show today, first, again, let me say thank you and welcome you all. Ambassador wa UNN, welcome. Muwanguzi Emma, welcome. Mwanje Baker, welcome. Fiona Mulunji, welcome. I welcome you all. Thank you for being on here. I think that's probably about it on Facebook. But in terms of YouTube, let me try and go on YouTube and see who is there. But I do thank you all for being on. I know Mara Caroline is always sort of our admin and pushing and asking you to like. Yeah, I just want to ask you again to like the page, share the page. You are privileged to be on here. Just the food for thought in terms of today. Maybe we take a reflection. You don't necessarily have to be Christian to believe in the book, the Bible, but I just thought this was quite important in terms of our topic today, which is the self-image. It was about this Bible verse that's taken from John 14, verse 12, and probably and beyond. Jesus said, we are made in the image, in God's image, and can do greater things than he. My reflection or my ask of you is that what did Jesus mean about this? What did he mean when he said that we are made in God's image and can do greater things than he? I am not a preacher, I'm not a pastor, I'm not any of those things. I am just an ordinary person. But when I contemplate as a Christian, when I contemplate on this particular verse 14, chapter 12, my understanding of this scripture is that we have a mind to create, to manifest, to live beyond what our worldly view dictates. My thinking and perspective are how I interpret this scripture is that we are individuals and unique that no one else, can ever be you, be like you, ever. This goes back onto the topic today is about self-image. So when you compare yourself to someone else, think that someone else is greater than or bigger than, I just want really to tell you that no one else can ever be you, be like you, ever. Even your identical twin. We all have been created uniquely with different personalities. We are all different and unique in our own individuality. Even if you're a pygmy or you're as tall as, a giraffe, you are still useful and important. So for instance, a pygmy where, when you look at the circus, I'm giving you an example. When you look at the circus, a pygmy would be very useful. This very short person, it may not be normal to you, to the normal world, but they are very useful to the circus. This circus that entertains, that, gives you an illusion, that does magical things that you think, oh, wow, and you keep wowing and oohing. They are normal to that and they are useful. This is the same if we take it to the world circus that we live in. It is exactly the same. The world circus that we live in is simply a circus. It means that you, tall, short, medium, you are useful, you are helpful, you are wonderful, created in God's image. You can do those things that Jesus talked about. If we only just go inside ourselves, have some silence, and not always have the noise that goes on around us, the noise of the things happening on social media, the noise of the world, the noise someone else telling you that this is better than, this whole measure of, the scale of this one is better than this one. This is all a world view, but spirituality and your inner being, you are greater in your individuality. I just want us to remember that. Every time you remember you think about, I am not good or better than, you compare yourself. Comparison is part of that negative, vibe. Comparison, competition, competition is not an abundance mindset. Competition is a poverty mindset, where we compete with thy neighbor. We compete who has the better house, who has a better shop, who's dressed better than. What are you measuring yourself with? Who are you measuring yourself with? Who defined better than? Like I said, this show is not for everybody. It's quite deep, and it takes a lot for us all to really comprehend this perspective, this philosophy of life, of making sure that you, the self, takes care of yourself, because when you do, then the world around you will benefit from you better than you are now. The world around you will be much more a better place when you understand yourself and the limiting things that impact on you, the way you perceive yourself in the world. When you think about, for instance, those in the Arab world who are doing jobs that you would not necessarily want for yourself. You didn't dream to be in the Arab world, for instance. You didn't dream to be, a house manager or kadama. You didn't dream it. I don't think you woke up one day and said, I want to be a house girl in the Arab world. You didn't dream that for yourself. You didn't dream that you may be on a car wash, you're washing cars. You didn't dream that you'd be, a cleaner somewhere. That is not what you dreamt of yourself. We didn't dream that we'll remain in the diaspora forever and ever more. That is not what we dreamt of ourselves, and that's not what we dream about ourselves. We dream that we will be in our own homes, not distracted by the material things, the material world. We're not distracted. We will live off the land that God provided for us. We will live by raising chickens, by raising goats, by having mangoes and papayas and jackfruit, and our children climbing trees like I did. I so hope, I so dream that my child is able to do some of those things. But we are where we are. But let that not stop us. Let that not be a limiting belief. So, as I introduce the topic today, it's about self-image. And the self-image is really about, it's really about the Poli-tricks of our environment. It plays on our minds and becomes our reality. Before we look further afield for solutions of our problems, let's consider the solutions within. So I'll put it there, I'll pack it there. And what I would like us to look at today is about lessons learned from our current situation, lessons we're learning, a reflection on what is happening to us. This week, what have been the big developments? I mean, when I look at this week, I think of things like the loss, the loss and grief in the local sense and broader sense, in the personal sense, in the community sense. What are those things that have happened to us that you can reflect on, right? What do you reflect on? What has happened in terms of, let's say, if we put UNN, what has been happening? When you think of the news, what has been happening? For us in my world, obviously it's been about the UNN, situation where we've had some shocking news about Prince Paul Chimbugwe. I don't want to concentrate on that because it's not necessarily a loss. It's simply that we need to find whatever energy, whatever resource that we have. We had Madame Liz and Mr. Chintu, and I think it was Zanji or Zanki. I do get the name mixed up, but we had, and all the people that were commenting on the situation, we had so much that we need to bring about our resources. We need to find it in ourselves to get out of that dark hole. We cannot be complacent anymore about taking information, knowledge. What have you done with the knowledge? Knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge is power. If you don't do something about what you've learned over the course of the year, it's nothing. When you learn and you apply what you've learned, that's when you have had success. So for me, thinking about the loss of the death of Queen Elizabeth II in the UK as a UK citizen, when the news came, I sort of had mixed feelings. I don't know about you, what you felt when the news came. But for me, I had mixed feelings, and the mixed feelings were around maybe part of that was maybe sadness, of course, because why is the sadness? Because there's a human being, the person of Queen Elizabeth II is also a human being. Is someone's mother, grandmother, who has died. So we pray that her soul rests in peace as a human being. In respect about how one human being can rule, I mean, I was thinking about, that sort of, how can one human being rule or be in power for 70 years? Because that's exactly how long, or over 70 years. From her 20s to now dying in her late 90s. And you might be thinking, why am I talking about this? How does this have to do anything with our situation or Uganda, whatever it is? You might ask yourselves, and I'm sure that us on UNN, we're a little bit well versed, well learned. We have a wider perspective. It's no longer a localized perspective. It's more about the worldwide perspective, a broad perspective. We see what might be, the consequences of her death. Of course, not by themselves. They didn't lead by themselves, but with a great deal of, of resources at their ready. They were seamlessly able to hold this 70 years because there's this wider network. It is not just about one person, it is about that, the crown, the symbol. And when can we, how does that relate to our own situation, of Uganda? Where do we see these things happening, where we're having, this whole thing of maybe the 50-year plan, Batusi dynasty, 50-year, does that, in holding power, wanting to hold power? I then have had many questions, of course, in the broader sense, like I said to you, politically, is this the end of colonialism, slavery? Particularly as an African, where I see symbols in my motherland, Uganda, is it now time to seriously consider renaming our national treasures, like our national parks? I'm sure many of you will know that most of our national parks, most of our lakes, beautiful, water features such as Lake Victoria, Edward, George, all of those things were named after this colonial, entity. How is this something that we need to seriously consider, perhaps? Then what will happen to the economic aspect as a UK Black African citizen? What is the deeper implication of my life and my family's life? What was that symbol of the Queen mean to me as a woman in this country, or maybe a woman in any other country? Did I have more opportunity? Will I continue to have these opportunities as a woman? When we think of that socio-economic, the negative side of things, how did that happen? When the time of Chogam, how did that impact on many families? Is it sort of this bittersweet end of an era? When we think about Chogam, how many people, when there was this sort of, preparation for the Queen coming to Uganda, and for the Queen, the all roads closed. You have, how many families lost their livelihoods? How many women on the market stall? How many, people lost their jobs, their livelihoods? Was it all rosy? Was it all this nice glitter, glamour and glitter that is made out to be? I was listening to some of the commentaries on Facebook. For instance, Dr. Shiva and Russell Brand. I don't know if many of you have looked at their posts recently, but they were reflecting on how the colonialism, for instance, Dr. Shiva talks about the Indian, implications about the Indian revolution, And he also mentions about the Ugandan revolution, or not Ugandan particularly, but the African revolution, where you've had this British Empire impact on all of us, how we are today. There has been a story, there was a root cause of what is going on for us now. Who has benefited the most? So when we think about the death of Queen Elizabeth II, may her soul rest in peace, it's not just a human being going or losing their lives, it's a symbol. She symbolizes this colonial slavery, the British Empire of the past 70 years. And what is it that we can maybe learn from, or what is it that will change? We know that the revolution is certainly not happening just in Uganda. I keep talking about the worldwide revolution. We must pay attention to the worldwide because it impacts us. If Uganda had no benefit to the rest, to the British Empire, would you think that the Queen would make a point of coming to Uganda? Not once, but twice. What is it about our country? We've learned so many lessons. We've had so many, amazing education we've had on UNN TV. If you have not watched UNN TV programs from Adam, from when we started over about a year ago, about over just over a year, go back. It's important that you know the history before you learn about why are we here, why are we coming on here every time, why are we so passionate about wanting the revolutionary change. This crown, the symbol of the Queen, it is simply a symbol of the death. The death is a symbol of this revolution that we're going through, because there's so much implication. There's so many ties with our country, Uganda, as little as it may be in the part of East African. For those of you that may not know where Uganda is located, Uganda is a small, beautiful green vegetation, the land of the apes, with beautiful season. We have hot and we have hot and rainy. We have green vegetation. We have one of the largest freshwater lakes. Just like Prince Chimbuge was talking about Uganda, the next world war will be about the freshwater lakes. It's not the first time I've had that situation. Many years ago, I've had on TED Talks, I had someone talking about the freshwater lakes being one of those things that would fuel the Third World War. But in case you didn't know where we're from, dismantling the kingdomships, what does it mean for you, the death of the Queen Elizabeth II? What does it symbolize? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for us? Is it about time that we got rid of the symbols that hold us in hostage? Because remember, every time you're exposed to things like Queen Elizabeth Park, like Lake George, Lake Edward, Lake Victoria, what does that do to your mindset? Do you wonder why is it called Lake Victoria? Why is it Lake George, Lake Albert, Queen Elizabeth? Why? Why does it continue to be so? Are we still held in bondage? What does that, who wants us to continue remembering and being fearful every time that word is, when someone mentions Queen Elizabeth Park? Lake Edward, Lake George, Lake, all those things. Who is benefiting? When you look at the socio-economic makeup or compare the difference between Britain and Uganda, who has benefited? Why would Uganda be a place of interest? This small country with a population, some would say, of about 45 million, 40 million, who knows? Because none of the statistics necessarily are accurate. It's about making up numbers. People just sit down and make up a number. What is it? What's the population? Because if we cannot hold the health and social care systems, what hope do you have when someone is telling you that the population is so and so? Is it accurate? Who is saying it? What is their reason? What is their purpose? What is their interest? So when we think about self-image, never ever think that self-image is really about just you as a person being just one person, sort of having no influence whatsoever. Self-image, the way you see yourself, is the way they've wanted you to see yourself. The environment has created the situation where we are now to be the way you are. Why? They want you to be having self-limiting beliefs. They want you to feel less than. They don't want you to tap into the power that you have, because no one created our things, such as the things we invented. The knives, remember those knives that we used to use? I remember my grandma used to have that sort of carved knife. I don't know how you call it, but these were original. These were created by our elders and ancestors. These things had significance. They meant something. Our attires meant something. They gave us the self-image, not the contemporary, not the glam, glitter, and all the, what everybody wants you to think, that it's about glamour and glitter. It created self-image. It gave our ancestors and our elders the power, the confidence to fight for their freedoms. And that's why maybe we're able to enjoy a little bit of those freedoms, because our ancestors did that. They were given, because of their upbringing, because of the spirituality, because of the traditions, they helped us to have the self-image, the pride. Just like the British pride in the crown, we too had the pride in the kingdomships. When you look at the 16 states of the federal governance, when that is being proposed, that was the essence of our self-image. We had what it takes to be the best we can in our environment. We did not need to take on the British way of life as we did in our education, in our way of life, in our dress sense, to be important. People came to us. The British Empire came to us in our authenticity. Because they saw that we were amazing individuals. We were an amazing community. We were an amazing, out of this world. But it's been eroded as time has gone on. Time and time again, we have had an erosion. I don't know, have you studied the erosion? You know, how the soil is eroded by a lot of flooding, a lot of this. This is what has happened to our culture, our image, self-image. We've had an erosion because we've introduced these foreign entities, the foreign energies. Yes, it is not good losing a loved one. So yes, of course, there's going to be a loss of a grandma. There's been a loss of a grandma. There's been a loss of a leader. There's been a loss of a mother. There's been a loss of great grandmother, of a sister. But the bottom line is that there's also been maybe a celebration of an end to an era that has colonized, because Queen Elizabeth II is a symbol of the British Empire that did colonize us as a people, or as I remember Prince Paul Chimbugwe saying, not necessarily colonized us, but came to us, changed the way we were doing things, not, I don't believe, for the betterment of our country, but to destroy the essence of who we were as a people in our federal governance. Because we had value, hence the foreigners came. Now, after the destroyance of giving us dictatorships and this presidency, we no longer necessarily have value as a people. Because if we didn't have value, we would not have the Queen herself coming. It would probably be just the Prime Minister. So think about that. The symbolism, the symbolic, the visits are symbolic, because we are a people that have pride, that are wonderfully made in God's image. No, however you feel that God is, however you be, whatever your belief system of what that God, the God that you think is means to you. It might be the Islam God, the Christian God, the Jewish God, the the Judaism, the Pentecostal, all those sects of religion. The bottom line is that we are made in this God's image, and we are important. We are wonderfully formed. Hence the reason that we, the people that say, we are this, maybe, like backward people. Why then would you have the highest God from the West come to this small place called Uganda? I just want us to go in a quick break as I have a sip of water, and then come back, talk about how the self-image, just how you can personalize your, like, put yourself, the wider, broader issues. You need to put yourself in those issues. You need to emotionalize these things for that to trigger your passion in bringing about the revolutionary you, hence the revolutionary community, revolutionary us. Okay, let's go into a break and I'll come back. Thank you.
Why do we need a federal system of governance in Uganda? And what is federalism? Federal is a system of governance. It's not about getting rid of the central government. It's not about party politics. It's not about multi-partisan or absence of it. It's not about religious differences. It's not about tribalism. It is not for the benefit of Uganda alone. It's not about monarchism. It's not about land or dispossessing people from land. It is not about supremacy of one region over another or others. It's about helping the central government to provide services more efficiently and provide more effective development to the people. It's about sharing power and responsibilities between the central government and regional governments. Federalism is about providing more prosperity, more wealth, more feeling of belonging and participation in governance by merging. Why do we need the federal system of governance in Uganda? And what is federalism? Federal is a system of governance. It's not about getting rid of the central government. It's not about party politics. It's not about multi-partisan or absence of it. It's not about religious differences. It's not about tribalism. It is not for the benefit of Uganda alone. It's not about monarchism. It's not about land or dispossessing people from land. It is not about supremacy of one region over another or others. It's about helping the central government to provide services more efficiently and provide more effective development to the people. It's about sharing power and responsibilities between the central government and regional governments. Federalism is about providing more prosperity, more wealth, more feeling of belonging and participation in governance by marginalized and non-marginalized people. The federal system of government minimizes possibilities of waging war against the central government. It minimizes internal acts of terrorism and discontent against the central government. It has inbuilt safeguards that ensure uniform growth for all regions of the country, and additional measures to make sure that the marginalized or less developed regions of the country can catch up through the system of equalization grants and affirmative action programs. This ensures that the regions with greater income and development contribute a percentage of their earnings to the developed areas which may be less developed. It should be noted that federalism, though different from decentralization, does not contradict or exclude decentralization. The two systems can and should coexist and complement each other at the regional level. Advocating federal does not mean or seek to get rid of decentralization from regional tier. Nor does it mean getting rid of district MPs, LC leaders, or other regional government officials. To learn more about federalism, register and join UFCC at www.ufcc.uk. Lwaki twetaaga enkola eya federo mu Uganda? Era federo kye ki? Federo nkola ya nfuga. Si kya kugoba gavumenti eya wakati. Si bya bufuzi bya bibiina. Si kya bibiina bingi oba obutabaawo. Si kya njawulo mu ddiini. Si kya kusosola mu bika. Si lwa kugasa Buganda yokka. Si kya bwakabaka. Si kya ttaka oba okugoba abantu ku ttaka. Si kya kusukkuluma kw'ekitundu ekimu ku kirala oba ebirala. Kikwata ku kuyamba gavumenti eya wakati okuwa obuweereza obulungi n'okuwa abantu enkulaakulana ennungi. Kikwata kugabana obuyinza n'obuvunaanyizibwa wakati wa gavumenti eya wakati ne gavumenti ez'ebitundu. Federo ekwata ku kuwa obugagga obusingawo, okuwulira okusingawo nti bali wamu n'okwetaba mu nfuga y'abantu abasuuliddwa ku bbali n'abatasuuliddwa ku bbali. Enkola ya gavumenti eya federo ekendeeza ku busobozi bw'okukuba olutalo ku gavumenti eya wakati. Kikendeeza ku bikolwa eby'obutujju eby'omunda n'obutali bumativu eri gavumenti eya wakati. Erimu obukuumi obuzimbibwamu obukakasa enkulaakulana ey'enjawulo eri ebitundu byonna eby'eggwanga, n'ebintu ebirala okulaba n'ebitundu eby'eggwanga ebisuuliddwa ku bbali oba ebitakulaakulana nnyo bisobola okukwatagana nga biyita mu nkola y'okugaba ensimbi ez'okwenkanankana n'enteekateeka z'okukakasa. Bino bikakasa nti ebitundu ebirina ensimbi ennyingi n'enkulaakulana biwaayo ebitundu ku 100 ebyenfuna byabwe ebyakanyibwako nga tebinnabaawo mu nkulaakulana y'ebitundu ebiyinza okuba nga tebinnakulaakulana nnyo. Kinaamanyibwa nti federo wadde nga ya njawulo ku decentralization tekootana oba okuggyawo decentralization. Enkola zombi zisobola era zirina okubeera awamu era nga zijulizigana ku mutendera gw'ekitundu. Okulwanirira federo tekitegeeza oba okunoonya okugoba, okugabanya obuyinza okuva mu mitendera gw'ekitundu, era tekitegeeza kugoba babaka ba disitulikiti, abakulembeze ba LC oba abakungu ba gavumenti z'ebitundu ebirala. Okuyiga ebisingawo ku federo weewandiise ng'ogenda ku www.ufcc.uk.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is the Revolutionary Spa. I'm your host, Sophia Sebi. The Revolutionary Spa means self-purposeful action. And as your host, Sophia Sebi, I'm on UNN Live TV. As we say, today's topic is about self-image. We choose to remember everything. Whatever you've learned before, you've learned today. how is it, how are you going to help yourself to improve your self-image? The image of remembering that you are not less than, you are made in God's image. No matter how you want to put it, no matter what your religious affiliation is. I disagree in terms of people saying that self purpose or self care is not part of this evolution, or it's not maybe Christian like, it's not spiritual, it's not of God. I disagree. I think we know ourselves from within before we can clearly, truly believe that we are part of the broad human race. We are also individuals in our own lives. And the individualism in us makes us how we truly see ourselves and how we truly contribute to the wider network, to the wider human race. So let's go into just a reminder of this video and what we've been talking about in terms of seeing this, the significance or the death of the symbol or the queen. How are others seeing it? It can be controversial, yes, I know. I respect and I pay my respects to the death of a person, of the Queen Elizabeth II, but also what is the symbolic meaning to us and others. Let's have a look at this video.
Some people are saying that celebrating or minimizing the death of the Queen is insensitive. That may be true, but in my view, it's even more insensitive to saturate our media with celebratory posts about a person who, for many people, is a symbol of genocide, colonization, and all the violent institutions that came with it. She was queen when Britain helped lead the war that destroyed my country, and just this year she gave a knighthood to one of the main criminal masterminds behind it, Tony Blair. Far from showing respect for the dead, that's basically saying it's honorable to kill hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. And of course, this is just one of countless atrocities committed in the name of a crown adorned with the spoils of war. So in my view, it's totally inappropriate for people to police how victims of colonization talk about the passing of the Queen. And I think it's only right that if we choose to remember her legacy, that we remember all of it.
Indeed, we remember all of it. It's not about the sieving and the wanting to just concentrate on, just like we've actually seen in terms of the past couple of weeks, where we've had the death of someone who has subjected torture to those who have been standing up for the rights of many, the atrocities committed. It's not just about that. It's not about saying, oh, you know what? Oh, okay, someone, died and we need to celebrate their positives. But no, it has changed the makeup of our nation, of our self-image, how we see ourselves, how we have been deemed to be less than. What is the symbolism or the symbolic? It's all in the symbols. Being less than, feeling we have to serve those maybe perhaps lighter than us. Revering that crown. if we were not important, if we were not significant in building the British Empire, for instance, we would certainly probably not have had visits from the head of the British Empire. I don't know about you, but in my view, we need to contemplate, we need to reflect on the symbolism of what this all means, for us moving forward. So I'll leave that with you. But just like I keep saying and I keep honing about, this revolution is not just a Ugandan one, but a worldwide. There's a worldwide issue, situation, circumstance that is greater than what we're thinking about the federalism. There's a greater worldwide view or factor that's influencing things that we want to change, such as the federal governance. It will be impacted, it is impacted by the world view, because there's interest of the world around us, the powers that be, in how the Ugandan revolution is going. There are so many things that are hindering, and these are all intertwined with what we're trying to achieve. Before we have a look at our other video, I just want to pay my respects, my tribute, my thanks to the people on YouTube. Mara Caroline Karen, thank you so much. Betty Nansubuga, thank you. Bernard Bukenya. Christine, thank you for being on here. We have Paul Nsamba, thank you so much for being on here. Who else? Nalongo, thank you for being on here. Sempala Ramadan Kareem, thank you for being on here. Tayala, who else? So sorry, some of the names are quite difficult to pronounce, or some of the proxies that you've used, the names. Okay, we've got Winnie Camilla, thank you for being on here. Greetings to you as well. Let me go back on Facebook. Macben Senyonjo, thank you. Tugume Julius, thank you. Luboyela Edward, thank you. Judith Matovu, thank you. Namatovu Mili, thank you for being on here. And Ntambazi Gulu Dene, thank you. MJ Kobe, thank you. Nantege Eva, thank you. Natu Salima, thank you so much for being on here. Joseph Collins Mwawu, thank you. Emmanuel Mewe, big up to you. Thank you so much for being on here. And all of you that I've not mentioned, Ambassador wa UNN, thank you. Nabulia Harriet, I know I mentioned you before. Nabulia Nowerina, thank you so much. You guys really inspire me. Princess Tyra, thank you. Busi Deco, thank you. Malcolm Katz, thank you. Joseph Collins Mwawu, I think I've already mentioned that. Thank you so much. And for staying on, keeping on. I appreciate all of you. You inspire me to be here every day. Not every day, but every week. I do my research. I try to be here as much as I can, despite the challenges, despite me being the main provider, parent, working sort of 13 hours. I am okay with that, because I come for you. I come that you may be inspired. I come so that we can learn together. I come that we can share these experiences together to make a change, to bring about our self-revolutionary, self-purposeful action. It's not about just taking the information. Like I said to you, knowledge is not power, but applied knowledge is power. So what have you learned this week? The revolution is not just a Ugandan one. Just remember that when you think about the revolution. In fact, it means that, let's go into the next video, talking about the revolution of somewhere else, about the revolution not being just a Ugandan one. Just to remind you that don't please be in the micro way of thinking. Think macro, like the bigger picture. And it may not mean any sense. You may not make sense of it now, and it's okay. I just want you to know it's okay not making sense of what is going on. What I want you to understand, that sometimes some things are not explainable. Sometimes, because of us being spiritual beings, we're not material beings. We are from the spirit world. Our thoughts, our being is spiritual. It's not just physical. What we see in the physical is only a snippet of what is really going on truly in our lives. I just want you to know that whatever you think, the emotions that are coming from you, what you're feeling is indeed probably more true than what you're seeing. So I ask you to take some time in your everyday life, because you will see, you visualize, you mentalize, you will be able to see how your life needs to be. Remember, thoughts first, then you can really truly put in action what you're thinking. We are thought beings, we are thoughts first. You might not agree, it's not all on the surface. Just because someone else has more viewings, it doesn't mean that you're not important, that what you're doing is not more important. Okay, just a quick video, and we'll go into probably the topic. I just want to probably briefly talk about the topic and be able to talk about the self-image and how we can improve ourselves in terms of self-image. Thank you.
These net zero targets, and there's only one way to achieve net zero according to these people, and it's to basically destroy your agricultural industry. Not to shut down transport, not to maybe rein in the sprawl of cities, but to destroy the food production of the country. And that's going to be very nifty when there's a surprise famine in the world. They can claim it's because of climate change and give themselves yet more power. So whether or not they screw up a country, they still win in some way, and this is not good for people.
No, you're right. When we're all starving, they'll say that's due to all the global warming, and they'll introduce even more crazy things. We've had a couple of inspiring developments with the Canadian truckers and with the Dutch farmers, but you're kind of rather pessimistic about the idea that the masses are going to rise up and actually say to their leaders, enough of this rubbish, we're done with it.
Well, look, during COVID, I was kind of hopeful that the spirit of humanity would come together and protect each other, particularly in Australia, because we've got this whole generation of mateship. We believe in helping each other. But nothing came of our protests. Nothing came of the Canadian protest for vaccines. And now we have farmers desperately begging the people they're trying to feed, help us. We are not going to be able to keep producing food. And nothing will happen until every person in the middle class and the working class can't pay their bills and can't feed their children. Nothing is going to happen. We watch it in every separate generation of humanity. We always do things the hard way. I'm not sure what it is about humanity. We have this flaw where we're quite apathetic and lazy until it affects us personally. And this is going to be our great undoing. Unless everybody goes, we should be paying attention, it's going to keep getting worse.
Yes, thank you for that. I mean, when you listen to that, in terms of how you see everyone shouting about the famine, when you hear about the famine in Karamoja, when you hear about all this famine being brought about because of the war going on somewhere in Eastern Europe, all of these things are intentional. They are not isolated incidents, and we shouldn't take it like that. So I just want to bring you that perspective to understand that it's not just about the Ugandan revolution, it's a worldwide. There's a greater, bigger agenda. Okay, so we go into our self-image presentation today. What I researched and what I'm bringing you today, just going a little bit backwards on ourselves. What is success? Success is the realization of an ideal. That's our Nightingale. Says success is the realization of an ideal. We have been here on UNN TV realizing the ideal of what? The ideal of having the UN, the federal governance of system. That is the ideal. It does not mean that we are unsuccessful because we haven't, maybe it's not come into fruition, but we have realized we have an advantage because we know there is something better than or greater than what we've been receiving. So when you look at yourself, when you think about where we've come from, how far we've come as a people, as a community here on UNN, we are a community. Like it or not, we are. We have been successful in realizing the ideal. The ideal is about what do we want to achieve? How do we see ourselves achieving? And we go into this topic, the main topic today, self-image. The I am. You are made in God's image. You are greater. You are important. It is not about competition. It is certainly not about competition. What is self-image? In the world of human psychology, for instance, self-image is how you perceive yourself. It is a number of self-impressions that have built up over time. These self-images can be very positive, giving a person confidence in their thoughts and actions, or negative, making a person doubtful of their capabilities and ideas. How many times do we doubt ourselves and our capabilities because of the worldview of us? Because of colonialism, because of dictatorships? How many times have we doubted ourselves and our capabilities? So what you see when you look in the mirror and how you picture yourself in your head is your self-image. This is derived from positivepsychology.com if you'd like to do a bit of reading. But other definitions of self-image is about the mental picture generally of a kind that is quite resistant to change, that depicts not only details that are potentially available to an objective investigation by others. For instance, your height. Remember when I was talking about the pygmy in the circus is more important than they would be probably in the day-to-day lives. The weight, your hair color, etc. But also items that have been learned by persons about themselves, either from personal experiences or by internalizing the judgments of others, how others have perceived you, how others have said who you were, really builds on your self-image. So self-image may consist of 6 types. Self-image resulting from how an individual sees oneself, how you see yourself. It can be self-image resulting from how others see you, the individual. It can be resulting from how the individual perceives the individual sees oneself, how you perceive yourself. It can be self-image resulting from how the individual perceives how others see the individual. Self-image results from how others perceive how the individual sees themselves. How you see yourself, others will probably take you the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as not confident, others will probably take you the same way. If you see yourself as someone who's always negative, not optimistic, that's probably how people will take you. If you see yourself as poor, that's how others will take you. Self-image results from how others perceive how others see the individual. These 6 types may or may not be an accurate representation of the person, and none of it may be true. So when we measure ourselves against others, we start having conflict with ourselves and the world within and the world without. This brings about disruptive and destructive behaviors. So sometimes you might be destructive in the way you continue to be hard on yourself. Say, I cannot do it. We cannot do it. No. We need someone else to do it. I am only a little person. I am only from a village. I am only, a house manager, or I'm only a kadama. You see yourselves in those roles and you define yourself in those roles, and those roles define your self-image. The reason why you feel this conflict all the time. By the way, this is a disclaimer. This show is not necessary for everybody. This information is not necessary for everybody to understand, but it's really a deeper meaning of how, my perspective or how I see things. You might like it, you might take a thing or two, but if it's not for you, I understand. That's okay, because you're probably not yet at that level of understanding. But the majority of us who have been on UNN TV for some time, we understand that life is deeper than what we see on the surface. So like I say, if you go into disruptive or destructive behaviors, you want to follow everybody and everything. You want to be hanging around, people who are rumor mongering, people who are always pessimistic, people who are always putting down someone else. These destructive or disruptive behaviors contribute to your self-image, how you see yourself. You're only reflecting what you see in yourself onto others. You're forcing something that is not meant to be. For instance, like when you stretch a cloth, it will rip, for instance. When you're like a bigger size and you're trying to fit in a smaller size, you're going to stretch that cloth. It is almost like pressing, let's say you're pressing a pimple that should not be there on your face. One of the Cybernetics. I don't know if you've heard of that theory by Cybernetics. You can Google it. You can do a bit of more research. One of the pioneers, Dr. Maxwell Waltz, proposes that when we don't see ourselves the way we are, we battle with self-confidence, we procrastinate all the time, we lack creativity, and we're insecure about our abilities. We're self-obsessed with self-doubt, with negative views of how we truly are. The negative views could be explained through, for instance, the perception, your childhood experiences, how you grew up. Imagine, sometimes I wonder, this is my thought, sometimes I wonder, you see that people, let's say you came from the village, or you see a lot of homesteads, or you see a lot of home environments in Uganda, whereby people maybe live in a mud house. And it's not that the mud house is a bad thing to live in. Sometimes I wish I could just live simply and in a mud house without all these sort of things that are going on around me. Sometimes I do wish that, honestly, because it's the most simplest life to live. You don't have a lot of responsibilities. You don't have a lot of collusion of all these ideas, of all these negative feelings or reflections. Your childhood experiences. You are in a mad house. You're living life simply. You have a piece of land you can grow food on. You have a water well. You can get water for free. Most of us have to pay for these things. But when you think about it, some of us, or some of our environments, or some people will live in this madhouse and not look after their environment, not maybe living in a good hygiene. Does it take a leader from parliament to come and say, oh, you know what, you need to clean up? You need to live in a nice, you don't need all this glitter and glamour to be able to live in a simple life and have a good hygiene. It is not something that needs to be, you don't need a lot of money. So anyway, our perception with childhood experiences of our environment, looking at our situation of growing up in dictatorial, corrupt and greedy systems, it tells us we can only be, or we can only get the best of the best if you lie. For instance, when it's in corruption, you can lie in the same bed as those in power or from a certain caste or tribe. You're only having these features of being light-skinned, of being whatever, or you're being told this contributes to your self-image. When you hear things like you're pigs, or you are told you are not good enough by a teacher or a parent or a trusted person, this imprints on the automatic guiding system, which is your subconscious mind. When we have these influences of childhood experiences, some of you would have seen me, or would have heard, or would have listened to my earlier lectures of the subconscious mind, because that taught you a little bit of the beginnings of the subconscious mind. The reason why we are where we are, our self-image, is because we're an autopilot. We're an automatic guiding system. Our subconscious mind is telling us, because of the things we've had, we've been experienced to, and these things are conflicting a lot with what God has created, or what the spiritual intelligence has wanted. The norm is abundance, it's not poverty. The spiritual intelligence, the God mind, or what God hopes us to have and achieve, is of abundance, not of poverty. So the world around us has taught us that we need to lament, we need to struggle, we need to... No, we are not supposed to be struggling to be, being in poverty, or having more money is a bad thing. It's not about having more money a bad thing. Having the mindset of money is having a mindset that when you have money, you're supposed to abuse, is not the same as what has been created by God. God gives us abundance we frustrate ourselves from fully achieving our full potential because of our self-image. When we alter the self-image and we tell ourselves or feeding ourselves with the subconscious mind, then we are able to fully live our full potential. For instance, I want to tell you a story. There's a story of a blind girl and a boyfriend. She said she would marry him if she could see him. This blind girl wanted to see him before she could marry him. So he donated his eyes, and when he asked her to marry him, she said no. So because when we see, we change our perspective, we change all the time because we've seen, then we end up not achieving our full potential. Maybe if she said yes, if she stuck to her word, because we have things we don't see beyond the extraordinary. So from this story, to me, is a clear indication that we change our mind when we are exposed to different perspectives. As a wise man once said, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So reminder to us all, speak what you seek until you see what you said. In other words, speak good things about yourself, acting as if you have it, as if you're the leader, as if you have richness, even if you don't see it at the moment in your day-to-day life. Act as if you want people to treat you like you're a person of respect or you are important, dress the part. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a third person. So when you internalize how you want to come out in the world, what you like your life to be like, have that theater of the mind, act as if. When I say theater of the mind, I mean act as if. Practice makes perfect, right? We keep saying practice makes perfect, right? What does that mean? So I hear a lot of us lamenting among family, friends, saying that it is really bad. I am poor, as Luganda, in Luganda they would say, sente zibuze, obwavu bungi, the struggle. This scarcity mindset is a poor mindset. I say we must change our self-image by changing our thinking. Start with the inner world to mold and change your perception, transform your outer world, have the theater of the mind. Act as if you have received it all. Act as if you have money. I'm not saying go out and spend when you don't have. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that mentalize, visualize that you have the things that you want to achieve. You want that federal governance of system. So act as if. The theater of the mind, which was obviously created by Maxwell Maltz, as I said, is Cybernetics, which is, what is it? Have a read on Google. There's a lot of maybe psychology, positivepsychology.com. There's a lot of really helpful. The word cybernetics comes from a Greek term that means a helmsman who steers his ship to port. We need to steer our ship to port, and the port is our destination. The destination of wanting to have abundance, the destination of wanting to have the revolution in our community, our Uganda. The destination, the port is the revolutionary governance of system. We steer our mind. You're steering your mind to a productive, useful goal so you can reach the greatest port in the world within. That is the greatest port, the world within. Your peace of mind. With it, you are somebody. Without it, you are nothing. That is the words of Dr. Maxwell Maltz. So this is just my perspective. It is up to you. What is it that you think? Why is it that we're still lamenting instead of being in a, abundant mindset? We're in sort of scarcity mindset. When we lament, we're in a scarcity mindset. If you want, dress nicely, smell nice if you want to feel and look good. Speak well if you want to be understood. Avoid asking others to change for your comfort without you willing to change for yourself. If you want something, be willing to invest by giving something in return. For instance, there's this story. I give another example, a story of the elephant, which was tied onto a small rope for many years, but the elephant thought that it was not possible to leave because it was exposed to this ideology, programming, that when they tied onto a rope, it was from a young age. Remember our childhood experiences, that it came to believe it was true. When people tell us that we are not good, we're not good enough, we're only from a different community, a class, we're not able to achieve to the best of our ability to our peak. We're conditioned, we're programmed, despite the elephant being, sort of strong. Its stature, the elephant is strong, it has strength. It can walk away, it can remove itself from this little pole that it was tied to, the rope. Just like, for instance, the animals in the circus. We are in a world circus where we are tied to this small rope. We think that we cannot move away from this small rope because we're programmed to think that this is our reality. Because when we move away from that rope, in our mind, we can truly achieve our potential. Our thoughts. So our thoughts, they play tricks on our perception. The Poli-tricks played on our mind are because of the environment we have been exposed to from childhood experiences. Engeri gye twakuzibwa etuleetera okulowooza nti no tuli ekyo abantu kye balowooza kye tulina okuba. I am passionate about this topic, the mindset. Hence, maybe I'm speaking in Uganda. Tuli ekyo, njagala mwenna mukitegeere. Tuli mulowooza tuli ekyo. Omuntu kyagamba nti kyolina okuba. Omuntu, when you go through education, cramming to do exams, cramming to, you're competing, that competition. Okuba nti no tulwana, the competition you see in parliament. I am better than, I'm greater than, look at that car, look at my car, look at the house I'm building. All of that is competition mindset. And the picture is giving us to all of us, is that we need to be that which we're being exposed. Tuyina okuba ekyo abakulembeze kye batulaga kye bali. Ffenna tulowooza we need to aspire to that, but that is not the only way. There's a third way. Waliwo ekkubo eddala lye tulina okuyitamu. So the Poli-tricks, they play tricks on our perception, on our world, that we are less than because of years and years going back to generations of exposure to the limiting ways of thinking. Our upbringing has exposed us to an environment, a thinking, a conditioning, a programming of the mind to be of the belief that that's our world. That's all there is in our world. But that is not true. When I was doing research, according to the School of Cybernetics, this is the positive psychology or psychologycybernetics.com. If you'd like to know more, psychology or psycho, I beg your pardon, psychocybernetics.com. The philosophy suggests the mind is impersonal. Our mind is impersonal. What do I mean by that? Impersonal ntegeeza nti tekigamba obwongo bwaffe tebuliiko nti nno butegeeza kino kibi oba kino kirungi, naye butwala ebintu byonna byetu, what we expose our mind to. Information yonna gye tutwala, information yonna gye tulaba ku social media, gye tusoma, lese gye twajja mu kibiina mu class, lese gye bw'olaba mu community waawo, olaba nti abantu bagamba abanaye sisobola kulima kubanga okulima batwalako ettaka, naye ng'ate omuntu ayogera nti batwalako ettaka ate ayina ettaka, ayina patch, naye agaanye okulima ebirime, agaanye okulunda, although ayina opportunity, yalowooza nti kubanga abantu abalala kye bagamba naye kyali. Obwongo tebulondawo ekirungi n'ekibi. Obwongo buli neutral. Obwongo butwala kye tubulaga, which is it takes what you feed it. Everything, positive or negative, real or imagined, bukitwala. Thoughts, interpretations of what we see perceived to be true. If you feed it with unworthiness, inferiority, undeservedness, incapability, it will take this information as is. It will take it as true and act on it. Do you understand? Ontegeera bulungi. Bw'oba tontegeera, you can say it, Sometimes maybe olina okuddayo okulaba program eno n'olaba mbadde ngamba ki, what was I saying? Obwongo tebutugamba, tetukula nti, bw'oba wakazaalibwa, obwongo tebulina kibi obukirungi. Ekintu kyonna kye babulaga, bazadde baffe kye batulaga, kye tutwala ng'ekituufu. Not so? Mwogerawo mu comments, Asia Nabs, thank you, welcome. Godfrey Mwanje, welcome. Esther Mugerwa Cheine, welcome. Alex Mujuzi, welcome. Sebugwao Shafiq, welcome. Nini Praise, welcome. Just lecture eno si ya buli omu, naye njagala kubalaga nti obwongo buno tebatukuza nti tugambye nti tuli kwegamba oli mubi oba oli mulungi, naye kye batugamba nga tukuze abazadde, mikwano gyo, environment nga political environment eno gye tulaba, kyetugamba nti kino kye kiri normal, kye tutwalanga normal, but it's not true. These are all imagined or made up stories of someone else's perception, what they think the world should be. This particular perception, it transforms into the personality we have taken on or have become what we have become, our self-image. What do I mean? This, that it is not good or bad, it is just is. The only difference is which perspective you come from. Mwenna muyinza okuba muva ku same village naye ne mutahavinga the same thought process. So what do you think that is? That thing? It's not about the material things outside. That person from the same village, you went to the same school, you end up in two different lifestyles. What is that thing? It's just the difference is the mindset, the perception. You have become to believe that is true of you, hence you've taken on that self-image. Because we all have two different family environments. The culture of the family, oyinza okuba olina family nga tulina neighbors, ne bw'oba ng'oli maybe Muganda wo. I really want to go into Uganda a little bit this time. Nti Muganda wo naye yennyini ayinza having a different life from you right now, kubanga are exposed to different perspectives. Naye kibaawula kyokka bwongo, your individuality, or the fact that ntino muli individuals. Lwakubanga muva munda emu, tekitegeeza nti no mujja having the same lifestyle. Kubanga you're individuals. Never okula ne neighbor ayinza having more things than you, but it does not necessarily mean naye ng'ate mukulidde mu same environment, similar environment. It might not be the same. Kubanga the thing of the mind is what is different. Your thinking is what is different. That your neighbor will come to maybe own a Mercedes, whatever that means, and you'll have a bicycle. It is not black or white. It is not in color. The color it reflects in your world is that which you have fed it. Your mind, you have fed the mind black or white or gray or orange or green, or it has been accustomed to you. So for example, when others see opportunity in the most unexpected places, nga bwe mbadde mbagamba, neighbor ayinza okukungula gwe n'otokungula. The most unexpected places, neighbor ayinza okugamba abaana be bagenda mu university gwe n'ogamba ababo tebajja genda mu university, because obwongo bwo buli different from that neighbor. Others see waste, waliwo abantu abalala balaba, rubbish ono gwe tusuula as important, as something really where they can get earn a living. We will just see rubbish. We will not see opportunity the same way. The same thing happens where on UNN, where we've seen, others are crying because one person has decided that they need a break. They will see that as a failure, where others are going to see it as an opportunity. What is that thing that makes us see differently? Do you think? What is it? So there's a biological perspective of colorblind. When everyone else sees color, some may see different colors. This perspective, the perspective or endowooza, suggests that our mind will not work out good or bad thoughts. It works out thoughts. That's it. So if you grew up exposed to toxic circumstances like war, others may probably have post-traumatic, disorder. Some may not. Trauma, poorly educated, others may see maybe the trauma as something which is limiting and not something which is an opportunity or a step to learn from. Something like the end of, just like we've seen the death of the Queen. Some people might see the end of everything, their lives, but some people will see it as opportunity. So if you grew up exposed to toxic circumstances, the war, trauma, poorly educated, I mean formal or informal, not just classroom. You are told that money doesn't grow on trees. How many times do we feel in our environment? We have been told many times that money doesn't grow on trees. We have been told so many times, tubadde tugambibwa esente tezinogebwa ku muti. All of that has exposed us to a mindset etugamba nti nno esente mbi, esente zibuze, money is scarce, victimhood, poor mindset. Then we are most likely impacted by these belief systems. Kubanga omuntu tugambibwa obwavu bungi, esente tezinogebwa ku muti, esente zibuze, esente zikoze eki, esente all the time. But anyway, the good news, it's not all doom and gloom. The good news is it is not your fault that you were raised the way you are or think. However, it is your fault when you discover that you don't need to stay there, but choose to stay there. Nga bwe mubadde muli educated on UNN, to know differently, to have different perspectives, that we have a third way of living life. We don't have to live life the same way we've known. And you don't take action. You don't do things differently from how you wake up every day, from how you pray, from how you do your things, from how you go and find work, from how you feed your family. It's not about getting a job, because getting a job is sticking you to that slavery mindset. It is not about being paid a paycheck. Just because you're not earning £100 today, it does not mean that you are poor. If you stop thinking that money, paper money, is all there is, waiting for approval from others, going with the masses just because everyone thinks the same way, you have to think the same way. You do not have to think the same way as everybody else. You can think your own way. Because thinking the same way as everybody else is programming. We need to get away from programming, from being programmed to be thinking like the masses. It's better to be right alone than being wrong with everybody else. If you wait for approval from others, that bananda babatya, ekyo tekijja kusoboka. The kind of thinking, mama nze nga ndabye, you then start telling yourself, I am a failure, become jealous, envious, competitive. It's not about the competitive mindset. Stop thinking about competition. Just because your neighbor, just because omuntu gwe wakula naye, just because omuntu gwe wagenda naye ku ssomero ayina a BMW, does not mean that you need to follow the same route. Just because someone has a mansion, you need to have the same mansion. Your life is different from everybody else. You are unique in your own way. That is self-image. You start feeding your mind with negativity, wanting to follow the masses. You start wanting to be like others. You strive to be like others. You want that car like others. You want your child in a certain school like others. You want a house like others. The list goes on. All this time, you get these things, but remain unhappy with yourself, despite achieving the things you thought you needed like others. What does that mean? What does that say about you? This whole inferiority complex, the inferiority complex, It is the feeling of being inferior and judging ourselves based on another person's norm. When we think that, okay, you know, or your muntu are living their life the way they're living, so nange nyina feeling that way, oba bwemba siri oyo muntu kyali kati mpulira nze na I don't belong, I'm not enough. The world view of what is moral and what is not. It's exactly the same way as superiority complex. Go and research on those terms. The keyword inferiority complex and superiority complex. They're all the same it's from a different coin. It's from the same coin, sorry. Two sides of the coin. You've got on one side of the coin inferiority complex, on the other superiority complex. These are the same perspectives. One perspective is about feeling inferior than, less than. The other one is feeling that you are greater than you are. When you think about the politicians, feeling that they're greater than they are. They are more than they are. Because we give them that power to make them feel more superior, and they walk arrogantly. They feel they deserve more than. So how do these terms, inferiority complex and superiority complex, how do they relate to Poli-tricks? The people that have come into positions of power are also part of the environment that you have probably grown up striving for superiority whilst you are feeling inferior. We have inferiority complex, they have superiority complex. It's all the same. It's just two sides of the same coin. We are feeling inferior because of what someone said, of how someone is showing up, making themselves bigger than. They are two concepts of the same coin. Like I say, it is definitely deeper thinking on this show, The Revolutionary Spa. The Revolutionary Spa, Self-Purposeful Action, is very deeper thinking and meaning to life than most of us have become accustomed to. And I understand if you find it complex and you find it, very hard to take in. I understand. I get it. But I would like us to give ourselves a chance to read a little bit more, to research a bit more, to understand wider things. Because if we understand the wider perspectives, we will not be in the positions of hopelessness or feeling like we give power to one individual or one person, or the things that go on around us that limit our beliefs, that make us think we're less than, make us think that all we need is to get money, tangible money. And we forget that there's more wealth than just tangible money. The networks that you have, the people that you have in your network. Imagine, okay, when we talk about intangible, for instance, when you oyinza okulowooza nti nno okubeera ne ssente zokka mu nsawo, omanyi bagamba amaganda, simanyi amaaso g'omuganda gali mu ngalo, ne bw'obeera ne ssente zino, esente zitulimba, oyina ssente mu account, olaba oyina maybe 1 million 2 million, olowooza oli rich. It's the illusion of this money. Naye nga bw'otuula wansi n'ogamba kale ani gwe nsobola okukubira nampa ku namba y'omuntu agenda okunkolera emmotoka yange ng'efudde, ani gwe ngenda okkubira nambulira oba ssomero ki eddungi, ani gwe ngenda okkubira nambulira kifo ki ekirungi eky'okuzimbamu ennyumba. All this is wealth, is part of your network, is part of your net worth. Your net worth teri ku ssente zokka z'ogenda, the clocking in and clocking out of hours. You work 24 hours, but you have no time. Be creative, to think more than. Naye sometimes tuli a little bit damaged, because we have this We have the imposter syndrome. We feel like we're undeserving of who you are or become. Imposter syndrome tugamba nti no, I am not meant to be in a position of power. I'm not meant to be. So you end up losing all the wealth, all the experience, all the things that you should have had because of those that you don't deserve. Someone else deserves, someone else that looks like a certain way deserves. When we think of the current situation, this whole agenda of putting in our faces, and when you're a certain look, you don't have to be in a certain position. Then you will become apologetic about who we are. We want to be, we have limiting beliefs about what society, community, or family want you to be. How do we change our perception? Acknowledge one thing, I'll go through a bit of actions, what I think we should do. We need to acknowledge that there are limiting beliefs that we desire to change. We need to get rid of them to create a new truth. We change our behaviors. If you need counseling, to go through counseling. If you need mentoring, you go through mentoring, reading, research, get rid of friends, environments that do not add value to you. Do you need to move away from where you are in order for you to act as if to be in the theater of your mind? We reprogram, reinvent, rebrand. We replace the old things with the new things. We need to be consistent. You live and breathe the things that you want to become, to see in the future. You want federalism, you need to act as if. You want new friendship groups, you want to have a completely different lifestyle. Not a lifestyle of, a poor mindset. And we need to continue, repeat the same things, the new habits that we've taken off. Your net worth is your net worth versus your network. Your network is your net worth. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you networking, making acquaintances with those people that will help you achieve your dream and goals? Are you writing down your intentions? What is it that you want to see in 1 year? Are you writing them down? Are you substituting, which means replacing your poor thoughts with new thoughts? What do you listen to? Through prayer, meditation, silence. Take 10, 15 minutes out of your day. Being silent. Listen to the inner you. Law of suggestion, law of substitution, saying to yourself that you are confident, you have abundance, you are love itself. Speak what you seek. You are healthy. No more lamentation. It's about action. The law of neutrality, it means the law, there's no bad or good. The world is impersonal. Your mind is impersonal. It doesn't think this is bad, I'll take this. This is good, I'll take this. It would take everything that you're feeding it. So you need to choose wisely. God is impersonal. There is no black or white. He created us all as humans. As I conclude, speak positively about your life. The absence of light does not mean it does not exist. It is not black or white. It's not dark or, whatever it is. Speak positively about your life, others, health-wise. Stop saying tuli bubi, tuli balwadde, tuli chi all the time. Sometimes okubira abantu beeka n'owulira ng'oyagala kwabika kubanga all the time bakugamba tetuyina, tuli balwadde, leero kino kinuma, leero kiri kinuma, leero siyina, leero si. Don't you get frustrated? Temuwulira busungu mu abandaba nti no bannange, enough. Remember, we become what we think about 95% of the time. So endowooza yaffe bw'ebanga eri tuli balwadde, tetuyina bannaye mujje mutuyambe bannange tugenda kukola tutya bannange. What do you think your life is going to be like? So if you're constantly thinking about negative thoughts, nothing positive will come out of your creation. Remember, we create with our minds. Ebirowoozo bibeera negative all the time. Era ogenda ku creatinga, ogenda kujjayo bintu biri negative. Kye tugenda okulaba mu environment. Remember, environment yaffe eri mirror image of our thoughts. Kyonna kye tulowooza, that's exactly what we create. So olaba Uganda, enguudo embi, hospitals embi, that is the collective thought process. Abantu okuba nti no obunafu, baagala nguzi, baagala kuba nti no balivinga mu kintu owaddugala. Ani akugamba nti olina okugenda mu parliament cleaninga your environment? Obwana obulaba nti kwega tebalina kye bambadde, tebalina engoye ziddugala. You just see complete desperation and negativity. Does it take omuzungu okujja otugamba nti banange clean after yourself, have good hygiene? Just simple things like that. Ebintu bitandikira mu these simple things. How are you going to clean up house of the parliament when you can't clean up house of your environment, just your household? So creating the life you want. If you want love, give love. You want a hug, go and hug somebody first. You want kindness, give a kind gesture towards another person. You want a compliment, give someone a compliment. What is it going to serve you? How is it going to serve you being mean to someone? You want a smile? Give someone a smile. You want charity? Give someone charity. You want a helping hand, and so on and so forth. Is there a sick or elderly neighbor you could share a meal with, visit or check in with regularly? If you want money, make money your friend. Change the thinking. Money doesn't go on trees. Thinking is not going to help us. If you want a service, be willing to give back value in exact proportion of what you want. Nothing is for free, and that's a universal law. There is something someone said that really hit me to the core. And that was my aha moment, my light bulb moment. I don't know if some of you know Lisa Nichols. Yes, she's a Black American motivational speaker. She once said the problem with us is that we are trying to go through a doorway made for one person, taking with us many people. What happens, just like you see on UN, and we don't have to have the masses to bring about change. What happens when we try to take everybody that's not willing to go? What happens? We only end up fitting an arm only, or a leg, or a head. One body part ends up not the full body part. Not the full body goes through the doorway because we are cramming so many people bodies in one doorway, which is too small. So we shouldn't try to bring about everybody through that doorway. Remember about the camel goes through a needle, that Bible story. A camel goes through a small needle hole. The heaven, you don't have to go into heaven, or going into heaven. You can only fit through the camel, the hole or the doorway to go through to heaven is so small, but the camel can go through it. What does it all mean? This is the same thing in our lives, our brains. We are filling them with too many things, people that are not necessarily good for our higher self, best versions of ourselves, or achieving to the highest standards. This means we are always performing at substandard level because we're trying to fit everybody into this doorway, which they're not supposed to. So when do you recall a time when you have had an opportunity, but you try to want to take everybody or everything with you? And in the end, you are slowed down, you procrastinate, and end up doing little or no progress. When have you thought about it? Looking at our culture, way of life, how many times do we sacrifice our freedoms, our mental health, self-healing, self-worth, self-discipline, self-discovery, security, safety, because of the many family members or friends we are trying to make happy or please, in the name of wanting to improve their lives? But they drain us instead, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and financially. We are drained. How many times you're living two lives? For those in the diaspora, I know we live two worlds. We live two lives. We have the life of where we are now. Then we have the life of living in Uganda. You're building mansions, you're building houses, and yet you still want to live a life, a normal and adequate life where you are. How many times have you sacrificed your salary and gone without to please a relative at home? How many times have you postponed your return home because family relatives have said, Guma, Mukwano, Guma, one more year, so we get that money to buy some more land, buy a car, open a business? How many times? But you end up in further debt, or you have ill health, or what day, or your boss becoming your worst nightmare. Some people have lost life and limb, because someone said one more year. Instead, you find no land, no business, nothing. How many opportunities of a good relationships have you passed on because a friend has influenced your decision, because they would miss the party life, or they're jealous? How many doorways have you not gone through wholly because you have brought many friends to go through it with you, but they were not meant to go through it with you? How many sleepless nights working additional shifts have you clocked up because of paying someone else's school fees? How many unhealthy food have you had or consumed in the name of sending money at home at the detriment of your health? How many? More than likely, if you are in the diaspora or a long way from home, these have been many. I am not saying we should not help our family, friends, or community. What I'm saying, we should look after self first, as we would be more useful to others than trying to get them through the doorway, one doorway at the same time. We should love them from where we are. Yes, pray for them, wish them well, but sometimes we must leave them behind. Just like the revolution, we must leave some people behind. So we can pull ourselves first, go through the doorway, then we can pull them up. When we are much more powerful, it is possible, it is impossible rather, to expect a sick person to cure a healthy person. So if we're sick ourselves, how are we going to help others who are sick too? So what am I saying? The more we continue to go about life, pulling everyone in our path, sometimes not wanting to be pulled up. Who don't want to be pulled up sometimes? Before we are at our best, our highest vibration, we take the risk of falling or failing at most of the opportunities and not performing at our best self. In the long run, we sabotage ourselves, and then our self-image is negatively impacted. We start to say to ourselves, I am a failure. Nothing I do works out. Why me? What did I do to life to live this life? Bandoze, why are others achieving more than I am, despite having less time doing what I am doing? Then your mind starts to play tricks that you are not good enough. You start to believe it is true. All along you did this. You did it to yourself. Some might say, what has this got to do with Poli-tricks? Just look around you. Look at your leaders who come from your community, your family, your friends. They too have similar or same pressures of those family members who are happy to receive the bribes, get the tender, jump the queue at the passport office, at a government office, congratulating them for being corrupt, being in a position of power, you name it. We have it all right around you. You have your self-image is right. It's a mirror image of your environment, or your environment is exactly how you are. You have or are contributing to their self-image, feeling superior than they are, hence being so poor at their job, the leaderships, giving the substandard service as they should never have been in the position of power. It was not their God-given purpose or destiny to be there, to lead the people. They sneaked through via that door, the overcrowded doorway that you encouraged them to go through. Your votes, without them demonstrating or evidencing their leadership skills. So whenever you insist on something, someone, a situation, remember that some things are not meant to be. If you have a gut feeling, intuition that that person should not be in a position of power, follow your gut feeling. We all have different purposes, God-given purposes that we are made to perform. We are all unique in our individuality. So if your friend, family member is not there yet, spiritually, emotionally, their mindset, don't try so hard that they should understand or come with you on your journey. Tebaina kujja nawe. Don't try so hard to get them into a mindset of what you're thinking about, especially you UNN, students. It is better you travel the journey alone to get to your destination faster than travel with many people and many times never get there. So remember, switching on the light of your mind, only can we be able to see clear who we really are. Our self-image is important. We are made in God's image. We're all individuals. You don't have to bring about the whole masses, the old friends, and you don't have to keep pulling people out of their situation if they don't want to. You continue the journey no matter what. If you feel that it's true, it's real, and it's into your intuition, your God-given energy, your spirituality, that this is the journey that you should be on, continue that journey. I thank you all. I know the show has been a little longer than normal. It usually is, but I really wanted to encourage you all that self-image is important. Self-image is what makes us all the time alter our perception. The way we see ourselves because of someone else's perspective can negatively impact on our actions. So don't listen to the masses. Really dig deep down in your own spirituality, in your own self. Go within. The world without should not impact on your ability. It is the world within. Self-image. We choose what we become. Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for watching. I love you all and see you next week. You want the revolutionary spark. Life is about balance. Remember, balance. Mind, body, spirit, and soul. Take care of you. Be good to yourself. No one else is going to make you. No one else is going to help you. Be good to yourself. And if someone doesn't make that table, if someone doesn't invite you on that table to sit, create your own table. Be it a job, be it relationships, you define your destiny. Good evening. Thank you for being on the Revolutionary Spark. God have mercy. I'm sure next time we'll be able to have a dialogue where we have calls, where you can call in and we have a discussion. I would love that. At the moment, it's not possible, but hopefully soon. And take care of you. And remember your Federal 5. Remember, if you do need to reach out, if you're, mentally, emotionally, psychologically impacted by the developments of the past few days, reach out to a friend, to someone, to us. And if you want to have daily thoughts or reflections of how you can motivate yourself as a parent, as a grown-up, to inspire, do follow Sophia Sebi, the African Parent Buddy. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. If you wish. If it's not your cup of tea, that's okay too. Take care of you. Take care of your soul, mind, body, and spirit. Thank you.